G'day, g'day, how you going? What do you know? They'll strike a light. G'day, g'day, and how you going? Just say g'day, 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 and you'll be right.
Now we come to the portion of the service before we do our Bible study that we address some end times news and trends that are happening around the world as it relates to Bible prophecy. Now this first item, and again there's a couple components to it, and I'm not here to get political, or I'm not here to defend Trump or his executive orders, but this topic of this so-called executive ban or the travel ban, which it's not, because no one would be able to travel in and out of the country. When you have hundreds and thousands of people coming in. It's not a Muslim ban because then it would just be exclusive to the Muslim country, so it's not a Muslim ban. But you feel sorry for, and I know that Trump understands the persecution of the Christians. That's someone said it was a 0.5% of Christians actually being brought into other countries, getting out of Syria. So there's an understanding of the persecution that's happening there. But these 7 countries that was laid out by, like we mentioned, the Obama administration. But this whole travel ban, whatever you want to call it, has created such tensions, not only throughout the U.S., but around the world. You know, it affects every airport. It affects so many societies that you're involved in. So it's going to create a lot more tension, a lot more problems. And again, not one person that's in favor of these refugees coming from these particular countries would be in favor of having a terrorist attack on your home or your school or your town. People don't want that. But all it takes is 1 or 2 individuals that have been crept in through these refugees, and what you see happening all throughout Europe, these were all refugees that came in that created these terrorist attacks. So it doesn't take a lot of people to do it. All you need is 1 or 2 individuals that will creep through with these so-called refugees. But there was an interview that was quite interesting out of the Yahoo News. There was an interview with the Syrian President, Assad. And he said that some of the refugees definitely are terrorists, which is kind of a no-brainer. But in this exclusive interview, he does, and he was asked about those who are fleeing through these refugees are aligned with terrorists, and the answer was yes, they are. There's quite a few of them. We don't know how many. He doesn't know how many are caught up within this. But he said this: you don't need a significant number to commit these atrocities. He also noted the 9/11 attacks were pulled off by a handful of terrorists. Maybe out of maybe millions of immigrants in the United States, it's not about the number. It's about the quality and about the intentions. So here's this man, the people are this evil dictator, which he has done evil things, but he's telling the truth. And it's obvious statement of fact that yet the Ninth Circuit of Court of Lunatics have just ruled these refugee jihadists, which is happening all throughout Europe, how they want to bring these people into the United States, have these unalienable right to enter the U.S. because it would be discrimination to hold them out. Okay? This is what's going to happen. And all it takes is 1 or 2 people coming in to create an atrocity, an attack. And you see this happening all throughout Europe because of these refugees flooding into these countries. And here's the thing. If you're for safety, if you're for security and protecting your country, then you're intolerant, you're divisive, you're racist, you're Islamophobic, you're divisive, and you get called all kinds of names. So it's a name calling because the liberal left and those who are siding on this whole issue really have no point to stand on. So they revert to name calling and character assassination. But you see, this issue is not going to go away. It's still going to be developed as time goes on. But here's the fact of the matter. There was a poll that took place in Europe out of the independent website that talked about most Europeans want immigration banned for Muslim majority countries. 55% of the 10 nations that they polled wanted to put a stop to this. 47% in the UK want to put a stop to this. Where's the uproar with all this? When other countries who have been affected by this, they see what's going on. But it's one thing, this double standard, if a president wants to protect his country, against harm. Also, a potential threat. Again, you see in dealing with Iran, their rhetoric, their noise, if you will, continues to escalate. And again, President Trump doesn't do any good by enticing more of this anger. But there is this revolution celebration. Basically, it was on what took place back in the 79 with the Iran Revolution, the Islamic Revolution that saw. So there's these continued protests, and this continues to happen year after year. But what we have seen taking place with Iran is they're arming up more and more with ballistic missiles. They've already tested some. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, and how they violated the UN resolution. But they're getting more and more aggressive. Their hatred, again, is continued to be fueled. It's just a matter of time before they really start to act more aggressively toward other countries. And one of the countries that they're, or not countries, but because we know Iran is a terrorist state sponsored, Hamas is one of those terrorist groups that they fund and arm up. Hamas just came out with a video, and this was out of the Jerusalem Post, how they have this new music video threatening to rain down rockets on Israel. So Hamas released this latest animated music video on Tuesday night, threatening to destroy Israel one day after flare-up violence between Israel and Gaza that erupted when the terror group fired a projectile missile from Gaza Strip that landed on south of Israel. The animated video called Zionist, You Will Perish, in Gaza was uploaded on YouTube and called for terrorist attacks and rockets against Israel, promising death to those who don't leave their land immediately, and attempt to deter Israel from another round of fighting with the terrorist organization. So where's the uproar with this? But they get a pass. When they want to entice violence, when anything that goes against Israel, the media is all for it. So you see this anti-Semitism that continues on. But it's also this brainwashing propaganda that these countries are grown up with from kindergarten, from young when they're in prep. They're taught to hate Israel. They're taught to hate America. And they're being trained to fight for that. Speaking of brainwashing and propaganda, I'll finish with this. It was a local school here, and I'm not going to name the school, but I know there's other public schools that will have the same sort of scenario what took place. Not only is evolution being taught in these schools, which is just damaging to people's understanding of life, but there's also a form of Satanism and witchcraft that is just an open door for these kids. And the school allows this to happen. A parent of a 4th grade teacher showed me a paper that was handed out a classroom with their teacher, and it said this. I'm trying to remember it, but it was, "We're pleased to inform you that you have been accepted in the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry." And so what they do, they have readings of Harry Potter in their classroom. Now, some would say, "Oh, this is harmless, it's just fantasy." Really? If a teacher was to open the Bible and just to start reading it, think of the uproar there. But to have a book that's so-called fantasy, but it's really not when it comes down to it, it opens the door to the occultic realm. But if you're open your mind to the spirit and satanic occultic activity, this is going to have a huge impact on these kids as they grow up. They're going to try these things later on. I remember hearing things when I was, in junior high, and then when I was in high school, I started playing with the Ouija board because it was harmless. It's just a fun game, and it opened up me to the demonic realm. And so it may not happen immediately, but there's this battle for the souls taking place. And this is just one slight example of what's taking place in the public schools. Not only are they brainwashing people about the acceptance of homosexuality and transgenderism and that sort of agenda, but then there's also, they're opening the door to occultic activity that will take place. And so it's curiosity, it's novelty, it's fun. is what these kids will be led to, and it leads down to a dangerous path. But you see, this is what's happening in the schools, public schools, more than a private school. Private school a little more guarded there. But if these kids don't have the truth of God's Word to filter out the stuff, just think of the open door that's happening to them. And so, you see the direction where they're going to go, the emptiness in their life. They're trying to satisfy all these other things. It becomes a depressing, lifeless, hopeless, empty life. When they continue, and this is exactly where the enemy wants them. It's a battle for their souls, a battle for their minds. And so, again, the best thing and the most important decision that people have to make in life is accepting Jesus Christ as the Lord and Savior. Or if you reject Him, there's eternal consequences. And so, but we need to be praying for the schools, praying for believers to stand up against these sort of choices that are being made. But again, it's a battle taking place. It's the brainwashing, it's the propaganda that happens in the schools. And so there's a lot more that can happen within schools, but this is where they grab the kids' attention. It even starts in the cartoons. When you look at Scooby-Doo, back when I was growing up, there's all kinds of occultic and Freemasonry stuff all throughout there. So it kind of dulls your senses so people are more accepting of it when they grow up in life. And this is why liberalism has gotten to the place where it is, because they brainwash our generation. It continues to filter in. Anyways, that's it for today's update.